Welcome to the show. You probably know, if you haven't already, about the success of the movie Unplanned, which crushed it at the box office in the opening weekend. You might not know the story behind the story of one of the major executive producers and supporters in the making of this film, Mike Lindell. He's right here on the Patrick Coffin Show, and touching that dial is strictly prohibited. We'll be right back. Mike Lindell is the founder of My Pillow and also the Lindell Foundation. He is a philanthropist, former crack addict turned self-made multimillionaire. It just sounds like a movie unto itself. Mike, thanks so much for carving out time to be with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
I was at the premiere. I don't think we crossed paths there in Los Angeles in the lead up to the movie, but I was very moved by it. And I noticed from the infomercials that you were the guy, not to be a spoiler alerter here, driving the tractor. I thought that's a great cameo. Was that whose idea was that?
The bulldozer.
Bulldozer, that's right.
Yeah, here's where that came from. I actually was I was leaving for Israel last year about this time. I'm leaving for Israel again next week, and and I hadn't talked to this guy in about 3 years. I had met him. He was a producer, a movie producer. And I had talked to him back in the day because I will be making a movie from my life story and when my book comes out. But he called me, and I'm with my gal, and we're actually on the plane, and I get the phone rings, and there's three producers on the line, and I said, he goes, yeah, Mike, we prayed about it, and you're going to be in our movie. And I go, really? What is? I haven't prayed about it. And they said, yeah, we want you to do a cameo in this movie. It's called Unplanned. It's a true story of Abby Johnson, and she was the youngest director at Planned Parenthood ever, and she had been part of all these abortions. Well, she had never actually been involved or seen one or whatever, I guess. And and they're telling me on the phone, and then she witnessed one, the horror of it. It completely changed her heart, and then she became this pro-life activist and whatever, and now they were making a movie from her book. And I said, well, you know what? Let me get back to you. And they said, when do you need to know? And they said, well, we need to know now. And I said,
no pressure.
Okay, let me call you back. So I got off the phone, prayed with my gal. I said, what do you think of this movie? She goes, yeah, you know what? Do it. We both got to do it. I called him back. I said, yeah, I'll be in the movie. But I said, I want it to be a quality movie too, not just with a great message. And I said, because I'm, putting my credibility on something. God's given me this big platform I have. I wanted to make sure that it's just not some cheesy movie with a great message. Yeah. And I said, are you short money, or how much would the movie cost? And then they go, well, we're short $1 million. And I said, well, when do you need that by? They go, well, we actually prayed about that too. And they said, call Mike Lindell. And I said, you know what? Hold on, because I said the plane's going to be backing up. I won't have a signal. I actually called and wired the money on faith, with no contract, no nothing. And I felt led to do that. And if you're a movie guy out there listening, that's not what I do every day.
I was going to say, Mike, I have a movie idea. I was
never done it before. This was all God. And now I get back from Israel, and he's filmed in a secret place in Oklahoma. It was like 2 days after I did all these prayer breakfast things I had to do when I got back from Israel. And so we go to film this, and I get down there. I'd never been in a movie like that before. And there's all these extras. And now my scene, there's 400 extras. In my scene, I am riding this bulldozer. Well, and there's going to be 3 takes on this, but everything's put into place, and the reset would take hours, right? Well, I go to the sun's going down lower and lower, and I go, wait a minute, how are they going to do? We're not going to get 3 takes, and I'm not, I did the math, and all of a sudden I look over, and there's an extra, it's a stunt double. They're bringing in a stunt double. He doesn't even have a mustache. I'm going, what is going on here? And I said, this isn't going to happen, guys, and the producers got together, and you're only going to get one shot. I said, I have to do this. I said, I'm not going to, a year from now, tell the public, I had to get a stunt double for this. And anyway, right before I'm doing it, I go, please, God, let this be good. So when you see me celebrating, that's me celebrating that it actually went down.
So you're the one-take wonder with the falling sun.
Take. Yeah, it was one take, and but the timing now, I look back now, the timing we're in right now, the God's timing of this movie is just incredible. I look back and go, wow, that discernment I had that day on faith to see where we're in right now, where they're killing babies in New York and lighting up buildings or unborn, and then they're killing babies in Virginia. I mean, I'm going, you can't even make this up. It's like, oh, come on, you planned this way.
There does seem to be a providential rising up of really high quality dramatic depictions from the other side. I mean, if Unplanned was the story, I told this to Ashley Bratcher and Abby Johnson last week in my interview with them. If the story was flipped and it was a pro-life activist who got red-pilled about how great abortion was and they became a Planned Parenthood employee, it would be a shoe-in for an Oscar, even if it was crap, right?
Absolutely, and we seen that right in the beginning when I became executive producer. Then I'm going, what they were blocked. The music that was on there, music labels were going, no, you're not using our artists on this movie. All of a sudden, you get the R rating, and then you can't even buy airtime on TV channels. Our networks, they're not letting us buy airtime. It so reminded me of when I went all in for the president, going, okay, what is the deal here? I mean, isn't this, to get the word out, and you're getting blocked by, even myself, when this launched, I was at the red carpet in California, but when it launched, when all the Twitter accounts, my Twitter, all these Twitters, my friends are going, hey, I can't connect or whatever. Even Twitter took it down for an hour until everybody got on board. And I think it's a great revival and awakening is what it is.
I interviewed Nick Loeb, who's the director and writer of a movie called Roe v. Wade that's not out yet. And like Unplanned, Roe v. Wade, Gosnell, I know the writer of that movie, Andrew Clavin, just an uphill battle, like strange persecution. We're just making a movie, guys. It can't just be a film, but obviously the people who created the Hollywood empire know exactly what's happening to the Death Star. When movies like this that are not supposed to perform well, I understand that the official estimate was 3 million. It was going to lose they were going to lose their shirts. 6.1 million from word of mouth. And I think you're right, Mike. I think there's an analog to what President Trump did in winning. He had the entire media establishment against him. Hollywood, forget it. Total blackout.
Right. That's why this was God's plan, not our plan. And you look at, I can look back and tell you every part of this movie, how this person got involved, how this happened, and it's going. We were all talking about this the other day, going, wow, all this stuff that came together. I was with Ashley. We're talking about all these little divine appointments we had, but brought everybody together for this. Even the producers, the cast, everything, and it was. And then the timing. It's like God saying, okay. Here, with all this stuff going on, and boom, now you have this, you broke the block, so to speak. I always think of it like back in the day, I would bet football, and the fix was in. You think, okay, is this fixed or what? And it's always kind of a rumor. Well, guess what? The fix was in on this movie, and it is for a lot of movies that are blocked. But one thing that they now, as you see, I'll bet you now, if we went this week, which we wouldn't, but if we went or talked to these networks and said, hey, now that it's making money and everything's good and it's working, now could we come on? Now, a lot of them would say, oh, sure, come on now. We're,
right.
And then they'll do the things they'll boycott. I always like when they attack me for everything, and they'll go boycott Mike Lindell, boycott My Pillow. And then the people that aren't real will say, don't boycott him. He'll double his ads. We see enough of that guy.
Right. Don't be an unpaid volunteer in his HR or PR department. Right. Now you saw in Donald J. Trump a winner that a lot of people did not see, like you backed Unplanned, sight unseen. Right. And there you are, a conservative Christian, someone who's very public about his faith, makes no bones about his relationship with Jesus Christ, gives God glory at all times. I mean, I'm looking at the Matthew gospel quote there behind you. And you're deep blue in a very red state. Have you always been the salmon going upstream, Mike?
Well, let me tell you, when specifically to Donald Trump, when you said you did that on faith, that's not necessarily true. I had a dream in the summer of 2015 that I met Donald Trump in a room. Now, me being a crack addict, and I did this speech earlier, about a month ago, I came out of crack cocaine, and I didn't know a Democrat from a Republican, a conservative from a liberal. I was a completely blank slate. I couldn't tell you who was good, bad. I didn't pay attention to politics. I was a crack addict, and then as things moved up, and all of a sudden we had the Obama, and I'm seeing, came out of this crack addiction. I go, what kind of world are we in when my friends were unemployed? All this stuff is going on. I was always in the inner city, and I'm seeing all the bad things that were going on there, and I'm seeing all our president giving money to evil empires, and I'm seeing this thing called ISIS and spread everywhere. It was like coming out of a 20-year gap with my addiction, going, what happened to our country? What happened to people? Mm-hmm. And then in the summer of 15, I have this dream. So I had to learn. I'm going, what's a liberal? What's a conservative? What's left? What's right? And I'm learning this. Well, I knew with my dreams, I'm going, that this would happen. Divine appointments started happening. I went to the National Prayer Breakfast, and I was picked out of 12 people to pray with Ben Carson. This is when he was still running. And yep. All these things kept happening to me, and I always look at mathematical odds going, what are the odds of this happening? And this is of God then. 1 in a million, 1 in a billion, you add them together. This is obviously God driving this car. And my meeting, it ends up happening then. It comes to fruition August 15, 2016. I get invited by Donald Trump to meet him in a private meeting and in his office in Trump Tower. And I walked in there with high hopes. I'm going, I had no idea what to expect. And I walked in, it was just him and I. He says, Mike, you always wear your cross on TV. He says, are you a Christian? I said, yes, Mr. Trump. This is a divine appointment. And we started talking back and forth. And you got to realize, I've been in the streets. I've been everywhere from every aspect of people and had to judge people and read people back in my world. And I'm talking to him, and he's telling me, what he wanted to do with the bring the jobs back. He was so proud of my pillow, everything made in America, made in the USA, and my 1,600 employees. We talked about that, and we talked about addiction. That was one of the things, because people say, well, now when you talk to them, just say you don't have to bring up your crack. One of the first things I said, I was a former crack addict. I just fully honest, and he was fully transparent. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was like talking to my brother. It's just like my preconceived notion. Anyway, it was just about 40 minutes or a half hour to 40 minutes, and I walked out of there and I go, wow. I don't know anything about politics, but this guy is the most pragmatic, common sense person I've ever talked to, and he knows what he's doing. He had my whole trust. I said he's going to be the greatest president ever, but I didn't stop there. I went and talked to so many of his employees, and it was like talking to a MyPillow employee. And I'm telling you, I don't see that anywhere. And these guys all are going, he's the greatest guy, the greatest boss. He's done stuff for him individually, and he genuinely cared. He had no agenda other than to help the country, his passion to help. So I did. That's when I went all in, and no one's ever changing me on that. I was attacked. I had the Corrupt Better Business Bureau brought me from an A+ to an F, if you remember that story. And
yeah, I do.
Attacked MyPillow with everything they had, and it was, you're not going to change because you can't take that from me. I met him, and now to see that, just like with the Unplanned movie, to see now the fruit of that, of my belief, of my unfaith, I'd done my due diligence, I've been there. And then to see, to all my friends are going, wow, Mike, you were right. To the point now where all I say to them, of course, everybody loves our president. Some just don't know it yet.
Right. Now, how did he react? Did that get his attention when you said just openly you were a former crack addict? Did he miss a beat, or how did he react to the? No, he didn't miss a beat. His passion was, he had a brother that had an addiction, alcoholism, and Donald Trump has never drank or did a drug in his life, no cigarette, nothing, ever. Yeah. And so, but he can still relate to, he held this opiate addiction. I was there when he signed the 800-page opiate bill. He cares so much for our country and for people, and people, they need to know that. I mean, and that's when I said that I was a former crack addict. It didn't miss a beat. It was like I finally got someone that I deal with that can be transparent about who they are and what they're believing. And that's what I've seen in him. I've seen heck in him going, because he had, everyone's going, oh, he said this. Well, when you talk to him one-on-one, where his heart is. You can soundbite people all you want and say, you know what? In fact, when I went to the third debate, they're telling me this was like after a sex tape or whatever. And they stuck a microphone in my face at the third debate and in the spin room.
And they go, Mr. Lindell, you always wear your cross on TV. What do you think of Donald Trump, what he said 11 years ago in sex tape? Or he said sex tape. And I go, well, let me tell you something. I said, I was a cocaine addict for 20 years, a crack addict for 9. I said, the stuff I did and said, I said, you would not believe it. But I said, on January 16, 2009, God set me free overnight of these addictions and stuff. And I've got a relationship with Jesus Christ. I've been an amazing transformation. And I said, do you know I met Donald Trump about a month and a half ago in a private meeting? And I said, the guy I met must not be the guy from 11 years ago. I said, he must be in some kind of transformation. I said, do you know Phil Robertson read him the gospel? She took her microphone and pulled it back and said, never mind.
Right.
I didn't want to put that.
Two words, never mind.
Put that out there,
I've been reading about the opiate crisis, and a lot of people, when they hear opioid crisis, they think, well, unless you're a high-profile celebrity like Rush Limbaugh, we're talking about people who are on the street or people who are, they live the cocaine celeb lifestyle. But this is from the drugabuse.gov. Every day, more than 130 people in the United States die after overdosing on opioids. And this is after an industry that in the 90s, when these things became more popular, like fentanyl and Vicodin and some, what can go wrong? Right. Well, lots can go wrong. And I did note, just as a media consumer, how often President Trump has talked about this.
Yeah, it's so dear to his heart. This is one of the things that's why that's one of the biggest reason he wants the border. You have to stop the flow of the drugs. And then we work on, I have an amazing platform I have that now with the Lindell Recovery Network, where I have all these stories of hope. You put in your age and your addiction, 22-year-old opiate addict. And you might not relate to a 50-year-old meth addict. Well, all these stories of hope come down and of your age and what you're addicted to. Yep. And then I say, hey, guys, I have all this help over here that I have vetted, over 2,000 centers that are faith-based that work. And when they come out of there, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to have mentors, paid mentors all over the country. Now, yep. With the president signed that 800-page opiate bill, it fits like a glove into what I'm doing. And I became very good friends with Ben Carson, and his work is in vision centers. All these things that are going on, the public doesn't hear about, to combat it, but that the president wants to get beat this opiate crisis. Back in my day, there's always been addictions. Addictions go back to childhood, where it comes from trauma and fatherlessness. And I was a divorce when I was 7 years old. I mean, this is where these addictions. Nobody's born an addict. You can sit and tell all these people, it's a disease, blah blah blah. No, it's wounds you have that need to be addressed and helped. And I often thought myself, when I was a cocaine addict, what if you poisoned cocaine and you heard about poison cocaine? Would I still do it? Well, obviously, we've shown with these opiates, yes, people will still do it when they can die, and it's playing Russian roulette.
Let's go back before January 16, 2009, Mike. Did you start off drinking? Like my beloved late father was an alcoholic, by God's grace, sober for 38 years, right. And he got sober through AA. AA does not work for everybody. I know some people are not going to like to hear that, but you had obviously an unusual divine intervention. Take us back to just the slide into what became an alley and then a sort of pit when you discovered crack.
Right. Well, I was always, I come from a divorced family back when divorces weren't common, when I was 7 years old. And I was put into a new school, and all of a sudden everybody wants to fit in. Well, you magnify that where you have a feeling of unworthiness from whatever that is. And this is where you have a fear of rejection. So if I was very shy, I would either do stuff to show off, like, hey, watch me climb out this bus window and jump. I would do this stuff, or not talk to people. You can't get rejected if you don't talk. And in the 90s, in the 80s, in the early I think it was 82 or 83, I had drank and stuff, 16 or 15, 16, 17, but not even so much as when I would drink, I'd have to drink so much to be able to talk to people, and open up. But all of a sudden, cocaine, I could talk to people. It was like, wow. For me, it was like I could, and I was a functioning addict for 20 years. Yeah. And for about 20 years. Well, that switched to crack cocaine, which anybody addict out there, anybody crack addict knows it's different than cocaine. Every drug has its own characteristics. It doesn't matter which one's your gateway. They all have characteristics. That's part of my new platform where you can relate to different drugs. So the guy knows what he's talking about. Well, here, you get up to, I lost everything. A 20-year marriage, I had betrayal when I invented my pillow, and all these things that happened with betrayal where people trying to steal my company. We were actually making the label and the pillows in our living room. We had 4 little kids, the lights out, we lost our house and everything. She couldn't take it anymore, so she left, basically walked off the course. I can't take it. And my pillow was just like a pulse. Well, you get up to 2008, and the drug dealers actually did an intervention on me in the spring of 2008, and where I couldn't buy. They go, 3 of the biggest drug dealers in Minneapolis go, and where I come out and go, what's going on? They go, you've been up for 14 days. You're going to bed, blah, blah, blah. We're not selling you anything. And 2 of them left. And the last guy finally went to sleep. And I headed down the streets of Minneapolis. I came back up, and an hour and a half later, he goes, how'd that work out for you? He goes, give me your phone. He says, I want to take a picture. You're going to need it for that book you've been telling us about. He says, you've been telling us that this pillow is a platform for God, and you're going to come back and help us all someday, and get us out of this addiction and dealing these drugs, and we're not going to let you die on us. And
he said that to you.
He said that, yes, and it's actually in my book. By the way, 2 of them worked for me. One of them's a born-again Christian. It worked for me, so it's kind of come full circle well. But it was 8 months later where my friend came to me in December of 2008 and said, he come walking. He had been freed of addiction for 3 years, but he was my equal. We both started cocaine at the same time, functioning addicts, both switched to crack at the same time. So, and I heard he had been straight for 3 years and fell in the Lord. And I'm going, okay, and I hadn't seen him in a year, but here he came walking in and things are, I can't even, I don't even explain how bad they were, but he comes walking, he goes, I go, Dick, what are you doing here? He goes, the Lord led me here. What's going on? And I said, well, as long as you're here, I have some questions for you. I said, first one I asked him, is it boring? He goes, no, man, it's not boring. But only I don't care if it's a counselor that went to school for 20 years to be a counselor or an addiction counselor or whatever. He was my equal. I trusted what he said to me. But I didn't quit that day. I took it all in. And things had happened that year, too. My son came to me, said he was going to move out with a tear in his eye, and I realized I couldn't hide stuff anymore from him. And then on January 16, 2009, they said, was that your bottom? Well, what it was is my calling was going to be gone. This platform, this pillow platform, was it a money? I made sure I didn't have any money, so that the story would be better. But I prayed, I said, I want to be freed of the desire for these drugs, and I'll do this platform thing. It was kind of making a deal with God. Now, that wasn't my complete surrender experience, but I made that. I did wake up the next day, and I didn't have the desire. 2 months later, I was led to our faith-based treatment center at my church. And one of the key things there, when I went in there, they said, I was going to say, I used to do this much drugs. I quit crack 2 months ago. They said, we don't care about that. Tell us about your father. I go, what do you mean, my father? I grew up with a fine childhood. And they said, did they divorce? Oh, yeah, they were divorced when I was 7. So we started going into these pains and these wounds and these stuff I was carrying with me because I wanted to find out why I was an addict in the first place, in case I would ever have the desire again, which I never have since. But why not find out why? And I'm going, and it surprised me. I'm going, what? All these different things. Wow, I had the fear of unworthiness and rejection, and which is true. 2 years later, when we were doing the first My Pillow infomercial, we bring in a real producer, and I was afraid to talk in front of people, and there was a real audience, and it was the night before we were doing our reads, and this producer, I'm doing mine, and then the pillow, and he texts the other guy, he said, this guy's the worst guy I've ever seen. He will never make it in TV, and he can't talk in front of people, which I couldn't.
Because of the scroll you had to go through on the teleprompter, right? It just kind of killed your joy.
No, it was also, I couldn't talk in front of people. It was a feeling of unworthiness. If you had people in a room, I couldn't talk to people. People with ties, especially, and ate with 3 forks, I feared them. They're better than me. I don't want to talk. I lived in Las Vegas once for 2 months, never talked or met a soul. It's a very lonely existence, but I couldn't talk to people. If you'd have told me I'd be speaking in front of and praying with 50,000 people at U.S. Bank Stadium someday, and being able to do that without fear of public speaking, I would have said, that ain't happening.
Gotcha. Right.
I was complete up. The next day when we filmed that infomercial, we did it was 9 takes. I was so afraid of the audience, and we took down the teleprompter, and we did it like I used to do at home shows and fairs for 7 years after I was turned down, and we just did it naturally. And when that's why you see My Pillow commercial. We do them all. Well, the others are ad-libbed, and it aired October 7th, 2009. I was living in 2011. I was living in my sister's basement, and I had like 5 employees, me and my kids, and 40 days later, I had 500 employees. It's just,
That's an astounding amount of organizational. That's just, I've never heard of growth that fast. That can also kill a company, as you know.
Yeah.
You want to kind of grow organically. How did you? I mean, it's like
they said,
go ahead.
Right. They said, Mike, you need to be CEO. I go, why do I want to be CEO? Just make pills. I was hiring people off the street. Because I knew so many people from when I had my bar.
Yep.
And we had no money, and we're taking every money and buying more stuff the next day. And everyone's connected on the phones, and we're teaching people how to sew. We're working through the middle of the night. And how everybody got pillows during that December of that year. But we never missed our mark. And we took in $100 million over the next 6 months. And at the end of it, I was like $4 or $5 million in debt. It was the scariest thing. Everybody had took advantage of me. I didn't know the people working with me, they didn't know what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And this is but I learned so much from 2012. I took it all in-house then. By the time 2014 came along, I was within 2 days of going under, and we had took in all that money. I don't have a bank. I've never used a bank. It's just whatever I got, I do it, just take what I got and roll it into the next thing. And mm-hmm. We were within 2 days of going under in 2014, and I met this gal, and she had something I didn't have. She goes, "You believe in God, but you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus." I'm going, what are you talking about? I wear my cross on TV, and and this is what I always wanted. I told her, I said, I tell people all the time, and they find Jesus or whatever, but it was like me trying to convince myself, and God was always chasing me. Well, this goes all the way up to, now if you're ready for this, on February 18th, 2017 is when I finally, it was called Operation Restore Warrior, where I did a full surrender. Full surrender to Jesus, and from that point on, now I could go out to massive stadiums and talk about Jesus with a passion I did for a pillow. You know, where it's come full circle, where My Pillow is just a platform for me to get behind things that God wants me to get behind, like the movie Unplanned, like our president, and speak out, because on November 8th, 2016, God gave us grace. And he gave us grace for another chance to get as many people to Jesus as we can.
There's an interesting way to see the Gospels and the way the apostles hear about Jesus Christ, and they hear his call and they follow him for 3 years and so on. But even after they see the miracles and they experience his teaching and they know he's the Messiah they've all been waiting for, right, they're still afraid in the upper room. They're afraid of the Jews, they're afraid of the Romans, and they're still kind of bound up. It's not until they experience the Holy Spirit on the inside, and that's when they're like, hey, bring it on.
It's over, bring it on.
Then the fear's gone, and you experience that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I say. That I can go on any channel network now, and it doesn't matter. Bring it on. And people say, well, does it hurt your business? And I'm going, no, my busiest day we're sitting in right now. Mm-hmm. God's protected. I'm doing what I pray every day for discernment and wisdom, and to follow what God wants done. At My Pillow, he's the chairman of the board. We had a thing in our board once. This is back when I did go behind the president. Or I did back the president. Someone in our board says, you're gonna cost us so much money, you can't go all in. Just that's great that you met him, blah blah blah. And I said, and I went out. I was so mad. I went outside the office, and my CMO came outside. She goes, we didn't get this far by you not listening to God. I go, that's right. I walk back in there, go, we didn't get this far by not listening to God. And now it's just they've all I think if other business owners and other people, we're in the greatest revival in history right now. And everybody's got to reach out. Don't be afraid to speak out. Don't be afraid to, pray to do that surrender, get the Holy Spirit, and then it's easy. Then you don't have to live in fear, like you said, like the disciples when they got that.
Yeah.
There's fear.
One thing I noticed, this might be in your book, and I'll ask you about it as we go on. I know I don't want to take up your whole time. I'm endlessly fascinated by your story, Mike. But I noticed that you went to sleep that night. Let's say that would be January 15th, 2009, and it was January 16th, right? Okay, so the night before that, you went to bed and you woke up basically with an answered prayer, have the desire taken from me for the crack cocaine, and that prayer was answered. And then you said you had a dream, sort of a prophetic dream in 2015, I want to say. Yeah. I'm just seeing the connection here to pillows. I'm not joking. Right. Your whole platform is rooted in the importance of rest and restoration. Right.
Well, absolutely, and you realize my pillow came from a dream from God. Even the name, I dreamt my pillow. I wrote it all over upstairs. My daughter came upstairs at 2 a.m. One of my daughters, she's like 10 years old. She goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I had my pillow written all over the house." And she goes, "I said, I'm going to invent this pillow. I had this dream. It's going to be called My Pillow. You're going to be able to move it. It's going to help everybody, millions of people." And she grabbed her glass of water. She goes, "That's really random, Dad," and went back downstairs.
There was like a crazy Eureka. It's like a guy with a lab flask. Eureka, I found it. That came in a dream, you said.
Yeah, but I would get these dreams. These dreams. God's gifted me with these dreams. We had a when we were in 2014, when we were 2 days of going under, I had a dream of where we would be financially by the end of the year, and I told that to my board. I said, so we're basically going to build Noah's Ark with no money. We had no money. Instead of shutting her down, we went bigger and waited for the rains to come. Mm-hmm. And in September of that year, we did our first 1 and 2 minute commercial, and it failed miserably. And these guys said, and this gal in our company said, "Mike, you need to be in it. You need to be in." I said, "I can't." That I told you that shyness, whatever. Yep. And that that fear of being the one out there, but I knew she was right, and I did it, and it didn't come across as a plea like, "Please buy this or we're under." It was like, I believe what we kept all those years. One of the things, and by the way, when we did it, we ended up exactly what I prophesized would be in our account, because they came in November of that year. My commercial went on TV and it just exploded with me in it. But here's what people say to me all the time: "How do you have that much passion for a pillow 15 years after you invented it?" And I say, the same way I have the passion now for Jesus. And let me explain. When I did shows all those years when there was nothing left, and I would do a home show or a fair, somebody would always come up and go, "Wow, this pillow helped me so much, and got this, this sleep, and this, it's changed my life. This is the best, not pillow, best product ever." And that made me feel good inside, that something I had done made me feel good. It wasn't about the money. It's never been about the money for me. That right there would keep me going. I want to help more people. You're seeing the fruit of what something I did. Mm-hmm. Well, now, when I went out and I spoke, this is after I told you I got the Holy Spirit, surrendered to Jesus. That spring, I went out to U.S. Bank Stadium, where the Super Bowl was in Minnesota, and there was 50,000 millennials there, and I'm out there, and I told part of my story, and I prayed, and actually it was 2017, and I prayed for them. Now, I had only been surrendered, since February 18th, but here this was in May, so this is like my first big. I'm going, wow, told a little bit of my story. I led them all in prayer for 1 minute, and now 3 weeks later, I'm at this amusement park with my granddaughter and my niece and nephew, and all these, it was like you couldn't have planned it. All these millennials and these younger even than that, I don't know what they call them, Generation ZT or whatever it is, so they're all coming up to me and they're going, "Wow, your story, it gave me hope. I found Jesus by what you said. I prayed, I called," and I'm just, it's just feeding me that what I did, wow, you mean what I said worked? You know what I mean? Yeah. And it did get to the point where my granddaughter said, "He's my grandpa, and we have to go on rides now."
Excuse me.
What I'm saying is, I just spoke in Texas at a big church there, 4,000 or 5,000 people, with Darryl Strawberry and these others. Darryl was a crack addict back in the day. One of the most amazing speakers now I've ever heard. But back in the day when he quit his addiction, that planted a seed with me going, wow, if he can do it, maybe I could quit this someday. And then to be in the same, room. But these people we spoke to, I hear back all the time going that I made a difference. And, so that drives me. It keeps the passion up going, if you'd have told me I'd be this evangelist or whatever, but however I reach them, I might not be able to quote a whole, all these things out of the Bible like a typical evangelist, but I've got a story that God, used me. Here's this crack addict. I have a lot of my friends are going, what's Mike doing sitting next to the president? I was invited to the White House. I said, who's sitting here? He goes, the president he wanted to sit by you as a manufacturers summit. My friends are seeing me going, what? This can only be God. They're surrendering. Jesus, you're real. This is incredible.
Mike, what would you say to people listening right now? By God's grace, my show is listened to regularly in 110 countries. What about someone listening and watching now who's tried everything and they're living a double life and they're in a great deal of pain and they feel like there's no hope?
Right. Well, Jesus is the hope, and you've got an example here of what He's done to me in my life. The impossible. I could sit here and tell you where I was financially and all that, but I mean, when you talk a crack addict, okay, if anyone out there been addict, and to be where I'm at now, here's what you can do. Look into your own life and say, what you put it. I use mathematics. You got a 1 in a million. Wow, that's a 1 in a million that happened, or 1 in a billion. Or maybe you put it off to chance, like that's impossible.
Yeah.
Maybe that you got through something, right? You go, oh, this is, I'll never get through this. And then you do. And when you add them all together, when does it become a miracle? You got to look at your own life, and when does it become a miracle? And then I'll tell you, if you're masking this with this double life or addictions, there is no better place, I don't care where you are in the world, than a faith-based, which means Jesus Christ treatment center. And you get in there, and when you get in there, you're gonna Salvation Army's been doing it since 1886. That's what they do. They're the best at it. It's all. And so you have that if you're an addict, but the other thing is too is and I'm going to tell you one more thing for the person out there. When you pray and you're going, Lord, please get me out. Most people, will pray when it's down and out. And where even if they have that little bit, they say, oh, I'm an atheist. No, you're probably not. You're praying when things get bad, and then you just ignore it because you got through that. You're going, God, get me out of this, and I'll never do this again, or just get me out of this one more time. Now, that might not be God's will, because you're not ready to surrender. Now, that might not be God's will. Where is God's will? It's in the Word. So now for me, staying in the Word, I can be proactively praying and God's, going, God, is this your will? Well, I read the Word, and you're staying in the Word. I can proactively pray now instead of always being react to situations I've done. And we all get choices. It wouldn't be easy if we didn't have choice. That's what we have is choice. My number one prayer every day is wisdom and discernment. God, is this your will? I pray for wisdom and discernment. And you need to get out there. First thing you do is just surrender to Jesus, get that personal relationship, get the Holy Spirit running your life rather than you trying to take charge and do it. It's easy then.
Some of the cliches are the most profound truths, like the Carrie Underwood song, Jesus Take the Wheel. There it is in a nutshell. Mike, what are your hopes for Unplanned? You're one of the early backers, and it's
my hopes for Unplanned. By the way, at the end of the movie, there's a help center there. This is what Abby has been doing for quite a while. There's a help. You're gonna get help. So if you've had an abortion and you've hid that, maybe you feel guilty, whatever. This is going to open up that again, and then you're going to be able to get help and let it go and forgive yourself, just like Jesus forgives you for all your sin. But what I see in the future is I want people to look back and say, what were they thinking back then? This abortion, it will be a thing of the past, and these seeds that are planted now, this awareness now, this rise up to people that that Unplanned was a part of this, making this aware what really goes on with abortion and Planned Parenthood and all these and all this horrible murder that's taking place. I don't understand the logic when you can take the same people and say, save. I seen it on the news the other day. Someone was saying, how can you have the same people saving minnows or whatever? What if these were animals? I'll bet you I would say, oh no, we've got to do this and this, and for whatever. And then you're a human life.
Yeah.
It's not logical to me, but I want people to see what really goes on and change hearts. I believe it's going to not just save the unborn, it's also going to save the born, like we have Virginia, but also then change hearts. And this will be a gateway to Jesus, I believe. If you see this and you're going, okay, obviously we want to save souls and to save these babies and then to save souls and to help people realize that they can forgive and that Jesus forgives them for everything, and all they need to do is surrender. But I really believe years down the road we're going to look back and say, what were these people thinking? What were they thinking? I mean, this is just like we do when we look back at anything, slavery, anything. What were they thinking?
The Holocaust Museum, maybe Planned Parenthood so-called clinics today will be like the Dachau concentration camps of the future.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to go, how could a population, because you know why? In the world we live in, this is what I say when God gave us grace, gave us a president that just smashed political correctness and stand up against all the culture, the movie industry, all these industries and the media that have gotten so far deranged from taking children in grade schools and taking God out of the public schools. I mean, you don't say I pledge allegiance. Remember when we growing up, it's one nation under God. You said the Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, to take all this stuff and remove it, it's almost like a master plan by the devil. And this is a time we're living in. It's amazing times. The good things that are going on now. This is a revival unheard of in history, and you're going to look back and say, "Wow, praise the Lord that He gave us grace to have another chance because we turned our back on Him."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the line between good and evil is certainly getting brighter and more obvious. Governor Northam, I have a membership site called Coffin Nation. I just did a report that's coming up today as we film this. Governor Northam, who is a former OBGYN doctor, publicly supports infanticide, letting the baby die in the bed after the parents have a discussion. He's signing legislation now. It's called Tommy's Law that will make animal cruelty a felony. Now, animal cruelty is a bad thing. It should be punished. But total disconnect.
How do you compare that? It's so illogical. And then how you do that? It's just like our media and our culture and Hollywood and stuff. To me, they've done the same thing that they did in Nazi Germany to convince They did it through propaganda, and they did it through media to convince these lies that come forth. And it's sad. We need to break through that, and that's why for me, I know my platform of being known to be able to use that. That's why I pray. Here we're going to get the word out regardless of you others, and that's another thing too. Getting involved in this movie, I did learn how much of a message you can get out through movies. I get blocked in the media all the time, or somewhat. Now it's getting easier and easier where I can go on most channels and they go, you can talk about Jesus or Donald Trump, and I don't get attacked like a normal person would because I've kind of broke through that barrier.
Yeah.
Bill Maher badmouthed me for 5 minutes the other day on his show. I sent him pills. I said, anytime, Bill, I'd love to come on.
Sure. That's awesome. No, keep fear at the door. Do you have a working title for your upcoming book?
It's called "What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO," and it's going to be so amazing. I've had 14 near-death experiences. But this journey that I was on with God chasing me and all these different, it's going to be one of the best fiction books you ever read, but then you're going to find out it's true. It's going to go
fiction, fiction/nonfiction.
You're like living inside this novel, like I lived. And like I was, and going, how could you possibly, this is impossible to get into this situation, much get out of it, and then all these different things that happen. And one of the things God blessed me with is everything that happened to me, I kept something would happen to me so profound, electrocuted and blew up half of a town with the wiring grid, and I lived. Well, here I have the newspaper, so I kept evidence I mean, even when the mafia was going to kill me back in 1979 for football bets, I wrote on a bag, we're paid by the night or things are going to get very physical. I kept that going, wow, this is going to be really good in my book someday.
Right. Well, I want to pick the photo that the bad actor you were dealing with, the guy who said, you're cut off because you haven't slept in 2 weeks. That photo, there's your book, there's your movie right there, the before after.
Yeah, I have the photo. You can actually look that up online. I have it.
Yeah.
But what I have, the cover of my book, is it actually changed from that to where I am right now, where you get this amazing transformation, and that's the hope. I wanted people to read the book, get their hope, and say, with God, all things are possible. That's the one right behind me. Hello.
Right. Amen. Exactly right. Well, I'll just come right out and say I'd love to be an affiliate from MyPillow, because I love, obviously I love sleeping, but I also recognize that rest, your night's sleep is like a mini Sabbath through the week. It's you've got to rest. People who are workaholics, people who think that busyness is the same as productivity, it's not true. So,
and sleep affects everything you do. The other 2/3 of your life, sure, traditional commercials for sleep, you don't always spend 1/3 of our life sleeping. It's the other 2/3 it affects. Your quality sleep, how the rest you need, your moods, how you feel, that your days off is, if I'm too tired to play with my grandkids, or, in our country, we spend so much money on things that put you to sleep, like sleeping pills and alcohol and cough syrup that isn't really cough syrup. And then they wake up anyway into this forced REM or whatever, and then they wake up and they're going after energy drinks and coffee.
That's right.
Not getting this quality REM and delta sleep you need. And sleep goes, for me. And when you talk just the pillow now, everyone I see, I have 44 million pillows sold now, but when I see people, usually they want to talk about my back, praying for the president or my transformation. But if the ones that still want to tell me about the pillow, it's always, it changed my life. It changed my life. I feel so good. I feel, I have, they ask me all the time, well, Mike, do you get a lot of sleep? Yeah, I get sleep. But if it's short, sometimes it is quality.
Yeah. Are you a napper? You able to nap?
No.
Yeah, I can't nap either. I fall into a 4-hour zombie zone. Forget it. Right. But at the end, I have one other pillow question, but I want to thank you for your time, Mike. I'll be back just for 1 second. I want to thank you for coming on the show. The story is astounding. I want to put the link to the photo, and I'll keep in touch with your folks, and when your book is up, I'll throw attention there as well. I do want to mention that this episode has been brought to you by my upcoming pilgrimage to Germany. We're going to the Oberammergau Passion Play. It only happens every 10 years, which has been going on since the mid-17th century. This is on a lot of people's bucket list. If you just Google Oberammergau, you'll know what I'm talking about. We're going May 17th through 25th. That's Bavaria. We're going to Salzburg. We're going to see monasteries, but it's really going to be a spiritual pilgrimage of prayer. Here's how you get connected. patrickcoffin.media/pilgrimage. patrickcoffin.media/pilgrimage. Mike, thanks for being a gift and for your time.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you. This is the Patrick Coffin Show. Be a saint. What else is there? Hey, this is Patrick Coffin. If you like what you see and hear, and you want to see and hear more, consider joining Coffin Nation as a full member. Just click right here and find out more about what that means. Nipsey, my fedora. That's Coffin Nation, the world's largest online community of culture builders. Click right here. See you on the inside.